Do not trust no African. At this point, I do not know who need to hear this, but African nationals, do not trust them.
Africa is good as fuck.
Kenya is down. I don't know if this is an off night. This is my second day, and I'm not impressed. They're mid. They're ugly to mid.
Grand rising kings and queens from Africa and across the ocean. Today I need to ask a question that might make some of us uncomfortable, mostly Africans or Black Americans, but it is a necessary question. What are we doing to Black Americans? Because the truth is, I have seen videos after videos of brothers and sisters in America calling out Africans. Some are even saying do not trust Africans. You know, they are saying we don't support them. They are saying we don't understand them. They are saying we turn our back as Africans. We turn our back on them. Okay? Whether we agree or not, we must face this conversation head on. We must talk about this. Please join me to this conversation if you're coming from Africa, if you're Black American, if you're Caribbean, if you're Afro-Latino, if you're coming from Mexico, Brazil. Join me on this conversation. Are we doing to Black Americans? What are we doing, or what have we not done to Black Americans? But before we go down into this conversation, let's watch these clips of Black Americans calling out Africans, complaining, and then we'll come back here and talk.
My African friend explained to me that a lot of Africans don't like African Americans, and that's simply a difference in culture. So let me explain how I discovered this. My friend and me were sitting down at an IHOP at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I invited him out. He said, "Thank you. I appreciate you. You are very kind." I said, "No problem, bro. I appreciate you." He says, "So you are from Africa, and why you don't have the accent?" I said, "Well, I've been here long enough to where I kind of adapted a Midwestern accent, and I kind of lost the African accent." He said, "Okay, okay, okay, I understand, okay." So we were talking, and he said, "Oh, look at those hood rats over there." And I said, "The hood rats?" And there's a bunch of black people just being loud and rowdy. And I said, "Well, they're not really hood, it's just they're us. They're black people like us." And he said, "You know how it is." And sadly, I knew exactly what he was talking about. You see, he then began to explain to me, like just in general, what I had thought and known for quite some time. He said, "Africans do not know African Americans at all. They do not like them. Let me watch this." He said, "Hello, brothers." And he signaled the hood rats that he called them over there. He said, "What's up, cuz? Cracking?" Then he said, "Do you know who the African president is?" And he says, "Nah, I had no idea. I don't know, Shabuki like," and he like did some clicking noise like, "Oh, that like," and he was like, "Yeah, thank you, brother. You all right?" He said, "Yeah, I know my African history. I'm from the motherland. Peace up, word up." He says, "Word up." See, they are idiots. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He says, he starts explaining to me about how they don't know African history. They only know African American history. That's all they know. It's a difference. He said American Africans are not good. And I'm like, "What do you mean not good?" He said they're not us. They're not cultured like us. They are not us. And then I asked, I said, why would like some Africans come over here because they want to be American? Well, they get American money, send it over to their family. Asians do this too. And there's a bunch of Asians in Africa for some reason. And there's like a little subsection of Asian people, like Chinese people in Africa because there's no population laws. It's a whole thing. He was explaining all this lore to me. I didn't know. I didn't know anything about this. I was confused. I was like, "Are you sure this is real?" And he said, "As far as I know, this is real. This is what I know. I go by what I know. That is what I am." Then he started talking like homophobic and all this other stuff. And he said, "Well, think about it. Most older black people here even are homophobic. You know when they say, 'Is he this?'" And I said, "Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. But, the newer generation is coming out and changing that." He says, "No, newer generation African Americans are majority are homophobic. Same with Caucasus people. Caucasus people. They are also homophobic." And I said, "Okay, all right, okay, fair. And I was just learning how his perception was, and it got me thinking, why is it that way? Why don't Africans like African Americans? Can someone explain that to me? Why is that?
Bro, I'm reaching out to the African community. Why don't y'all like us? Because when I be at work and I be trying to talk to the African people, it always seemed like they be like looking at me funny or side-eyeing me. And at first I was thinking maybe they just don't understand me that well. Maybe they're not well acquainted with the way we speak or something. I don't know, but somebody brought it to my attention that they just don't like African-American people. And I didn't believe it at first, but then I started noticing certain little things. One of my coworkers was like, if you notice, they always cool with the white people. They love white people. I'm like, no, I don't think it's that. Like, it's no way they like white people more than they like us. That don't even make sense. I'll never forget. I was walking down this long pathway at my job. It's like a long pathway. And I see somebody just running this way like super, super fast. And it was an African. And I'm sitting there watching this, and she's a beautiful African lady, like super beautiful. Like, but she running this way. I'm looking like, what's she running from? It's a white dude behind her chasing her, and they both just laughing and giggling. I'm like, ain't that the same girl I was just trying to talk to yesterday, and she act like she couldn't understand nothing I was saying? How she having so much fun talking to this white man, but she can't be cool with me? Like, that's insane. Like, why don't y'all like us? Like, what is it that y'all don't like about us? I thought we was cool. And then as time went on, more and more, like, down the line, I'm starting to peep, like, this is a reoccurring pattern. Like, it keep on happening. I'm starting to peep that ain't no Africans trying to talk to me. They all act funny towards me, but they do be messing with the white people. And I'm like, bruh, that's a real thing? Like, I used to hear people say it, but I didn't really believe it. Like, I'm not the type of person that just hears something and just believe it automatically. Like, I got to see for myself. And once I really seen it, like, this same African lady I was just trying to talk to yesterday, not being flirtatious, not being weird or nothing, like, regular conversation. Just trying to, you know what I mean, help make the day go by. Like, not even saying nothing bad or nothing. This same lady who wouldn't even give me a conversation was being chased down by a white man, laughing and giggling. I couldn't believe it. Why don't y'all like us? I understand we're a little bit Americanized and everything like that, and we're a little bit brainwashed, and, you know, we can be ignorant at times, but every African American is not like that. I don't like to see myself as an ignorant person who runs around starting I don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't do that at all. So I don't understand. It's very frustrating. I don't even want to talk about it no more. But hey, have y'all ever experienced that?
But you divided us and said we are slaves.
Yeah.
So they got y'all too, ain't it?
No, they don't.
You went back, I'm your brother, I'm lost though.
Because I could say tomorrow, if I'm done with this shit, I could go home. You can't go home. You stay here.
I've heard too many times that African Americans believe that we Africans look down upon them when we come to this country, that we think we're better than them. It's false, I'll tell you, based on knowledge. It's false, totally false. When we were young in Africa, we worshipped African Americans. Yes. We changed our names to African Americans. My friends in school were called Jim Brown.
Go King.
Blacks in Africa, the barber shop, we go to barber shop until blacks started wearing afro, and we stopped and we started wearing afro.
Really?
We blacks hated our own fabric, the dashiki, until African Americans made it popular in the 70s, and we all started wearing it back. And then we go home and we're trying to practice how they speak and all that. Really? That was when we were in Africa. Ask any African who went through the 60s and 70s. They'll tell you.
I don't understand why Africans hate their own people. Like, just because we live in a different country doesn't make us any different than y'all. I mean, sure, our culture is different, but genetically, we're literally the same. And you want to know what's crazy? African people copy American culture, and black people want more of their culture. Like, really? We're literally going in separate directions, and that's what's dividing us. This stupid ignorance on both sides needs to stop. Like, it's honestly so dumb. Just love everyone. Understand both sides. It's that easy.
Do Africans hate African Americans? The short response to this is don't just take my word for it. Go to Africa and find out for yourself. But honestly, this rhetoric that continues to be pushed is not only downright disgusting, but it's continuing to push a divide amongst us. There are ignorant people in the African community. There are ignorant people in the African American community. Just like when I came here, I used to be made fun of for being African. I don't hold that against them because in the most respectful manner, they did not know any better. They were children and they were just going up for whatever was fed to them. If you go to Africa, you literally get treated like royalty. I'm telling you, royalty, bro.
The people you call black Americans are not from Africa.
Okay.
We're from America.
I mean, if that's how you want it.
First of all, I'm about to bust that dry bubble that y'all got thinking that everything and everybody comes from Africa. How can humanity come from Africa when all of Africa's food comes from the rest of the world? Your biggest cash crops, cocoa and cassava, both come from America.
I actually love that you brought that up because I can finally talk about Africa before slavery. Because yes, we did exist before slavery. And Africa, especially West African countries, had peaceful trade with South America at that time. That's why you can find cassava and stuff like that in cultural food in West African countries. Because West African countries discovered America way before Europe did, way before. And there's actually a really, really interesting interview from Dr. Ivan van Santima, which is from the 80s, I think. It's on YouTube, where he talks about how advantaged Africans were in their travels to South America, their trade and stuff like that, and how much Europe did to try cover that up, because they were embarrassed about how advantaged Africans were. So thank you for bringing it up. That's actually, I appreciate that.
Check yourself.
Checked.
So y'all trying to claim that we come from y'all, when in actuality, some of the people in Africa come from us. Y'all never heard about Liberia?
Okay, now I'm generally a little bit confused, because even when we go off of your point of saying Black Americans are not Africans, Liberia would still exist as a country, maybe with a different name, without Black Americans, because it was never an empty piece of land. There were people living there before, and it actually caused a lot of difficult dynamics and even wars when they sent back Black Americans. So yeah, just saying that they would exist without Black Americans still.
Yeah. And y'all love to say that we ain't got no culture and we don't know who we are.
I totally agree on that, because even I grew up learning that Americans have no culture. That was never just about Black Americans, that was about Americans. And it took me a time to actually overthink what I've been hearing my whole life, because it's simply not true. You have your own culture. Do I say, or would I say you are the blueprint? Absolutely not. I would never agree to that. But will I say you have a big impact? Absolutely. Absolutely, and I'm freaking proud of y'all for doing that. So yes, we should work on that, and we should definitely give Black Americans their roses, because they be working hard. Shit, yeah.
So who are you to even open your mouth and try to tell us who we are?
Honestly, especially in this time, no one can tell you who you are. If you want to be a tree, be a tree. If you want to be a cat, be a cat. And if you don't want to be African, don't be African. And this might sound sarcastic, but I don't mean it in that way. Like, seriously, if you don't want to be African, that's it. And I think Africans, or we in general, got to stop telling them who to be. If they want to not be African, that's fine. I'm totally fine with us being friends. I don't need to be your blood, and I don't need us to have the same roots for us to get along. Can we just stop fighting? Can we just do that?
I see videos on social media, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on X. Black Americans are speaking out. They are calling out Africans for different reasons. And I was like, I thought we are the same. I thought we are all black. I thought we are all coming from one mother. I thought we are all coming from Africa, because you are African American, and the history started where enslaved Africans were taken there. So we are all from one continent. I was asking myself, what's going on? When we call out each other, when we talk, I think that we have finished talking, but at the end of the day, next day, we got another video from another Black American, okay? Others say Africans look down on them. Others say Africans call them names or distance themselves from their struggle. Some even say Africans forget that without the fight of Black Americans, Africans will not have the voice they have today, okay? Mostly in the global stage. Now, whether we agree on this or not, there are their feelings, and we cannot dismiss feelings. Feelings come from lived experience, and when Black Americans say that many people are dying here, or my people are dying here, my people are struggling here, but Africans act like not their problem, we have to pause and listen, okay? We have to listen on it, because remember one thing, pain ignored becomes pain multiplied. But how did we even get here? How did we even get here? People of the same color, people of the same continent, how do we get on this fight? How did Africans and Black Americans, who literally are one people, divided by a ship, and are up or end up arguing and pointing fingers instead of embracing? This divide did not start today. This divide, per me, it goes way back to colonization and slavery. The European slave traders took millions of Africans and scattered them across the America. Families broken, names, arrests, languages, culture. Language was stolen, culture was deleted, identities was destroyed. At the same time, Europe colonized Africa and brainwashed Africans into seeing themselves as tribes instead of one nation. You see? They taught Africans to distance themselves from slaves, to look down on Black Americans as if they were not part of us. They taught Black Americans that Africans sold them, okay? And they told Africans that Black Americans were lost and dangerous. Do you see the pattern? The pattern is only one: divide and conquer. This is the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. And unfortunately, even today, many of us have not healed from that. Africans sometimes, how Africans see Black Americans as too aggressive or too different. Black Americans sometimes see Africans as too silent or too disconnected or too primitive. But both of us are still living under the same systems created by the same oppressor. Okay? Let me go direct to the elephant in the room. Many Black Americans say when we fight here in America, where are the Africans? We are the people who created culture. They come here and use our culture. When, for example, when George Floyd was murdered or when George Floyd was unalived, Africans in diaspora, they remained silent. Why? Because they were told if you come here and put your head down, you will achieve everything. So many Africans did not join the protest. They did not call out what was going on because they wanted to be close to the system. They wanted to be close to the whiteness. Okay? And the question is, because the truth is, many Africans did not stand up in the way that we should have. Okay? Yes, there were protests in Kenya, in South Africa, Nigeria and Ghana. Some African leaders made statements. Did Africa as a continent unite and demand justice? Did Africa put pressure on America the way it does when it comes to foreign aid? Did Africa put pressure like the way it comes to foreign trade? It is pure truth. Africans did not. And that silence that Africans had, it hurts. Because when one black person is unalived unjustly, it should shake like the whole black world. It should have embassies protesting, streets filled, governments cutting ties until justice is served. But instead, too many Africans were quiet or distracted with our own local struggles. Now, when Kenya was protesting, Black Americans joined the protest. Okay? When they were protesting on Ibrahim Traore, Black Americans, black people in Jamaica, in USA, they joined the protest. They filled the streets, you know, because it is a black person. They have decided to join hands. And we also need to understand this one thing, the African side, because it is not just neglect. It is also survival. Many Africans on the continent are struggling under corrupt leaders, poverty, unemployment, and constant Western interference. And the truth is, some Africans barely have food in the table. That is reality. Some are fighting to survive oppressive governments, and in that struggle, don't always have the energy or resources to also fight battles in America. That is reality. Let's not forget that. It's called the African perspective. Okay? And this does not excuse silence. It doesn't excuse that our silence, but it explains the environment. And if we are being honest, many Africans have been conditioned not to care about black issues in America because colonial education has taught Africans to prioritize Europe and America over their own brothers and sisters. For example, when I was in school, we didn't learn about black Americans. We did not learn much about enslaved Africans. We learned much about Europe. We learned much about Europe. That is reality, okay? And that's why even when black American dies unjustly, African media might not cover. We will not talk about it. I remember when George Floyd was unalived, African media, they didn't even talk about it. They did not do that, okay? In Kenya, they didn't do that heavily. But when a white celebrity dies, suddenly it headlined the news. They share the news everywhere. You see the problem? So it's a system of miseducation. Another thing fueling these call-outs is misunderstanding. Too often Africans and black Americans judge others without context. Africans sometimes say black Americans don't know their roads. They complain too much. They don't take opportunities. Meanwhile, black Americans say that Africans come to America to benefit from our struggles, but didn't stand with us. They look down on us as if they are better. You know, there is this conversation to and fro from black Americans and Africans. Each of us, black Americans and Africans, are looking. They are saying we are better. These are saying they are better. So it is different, and that is exactly what the oppressor wants. The oppressor wants us to fight. The oppressor wants us to quarrel. They don't want peace within us because our unity is a threat to them. When African nations were still under colonial rule, it was black Africans who raised their voice. Malcolm X stood before the United Nations calling for Africans nations to join with African Americans in the fight against racism in America. W.E.B. left America and spent his final years in Ghana, working side by side with Kwame Nkrumah. the civil rights movement inspired African independence struggle, okay? Even the simple fact that African leaders were welcomed with respect on the world stage was possibly because of black Americans, okay? They fought, black Americans fought and bled to tear down segregation in the USA. So when black Americans say, where are the Africans now? We must remember that black Americans are not asking for handouts. They are asking for reciprocity. They stood for Africa. Now they want Africa to stand for them. Now, what is Africans' contribution to black America? Okay? African contribution to black Americans. At the same time, black Americans should remember that Africans have contributed to their struggle in ways they are not always visible. That is reality. Now, for example, during the height of the civil movement, African nations used their seats at the United Nations to embrace or to embarrass America. They asked question. For example, I remember one of the question was asked, it was, now, can you preach democracy abroad while treating black people as second-class citizens at home? Okay? So that international pressure forced America to pass the civil rights legislation. And even in more recent times, I've seen African youths have joined in global protests like Black Lives Matter. Nigerians, South Africans, Kenyans too, Ghanaians and others marched in solidarity. African musicians, African influencers, and activists continue to speak out. But the truth is, it has not been enough. The effort is scattered, not united, okay? Africa has not mobilized its full power to defend black lives globally. And that's what we must change as Africans. And we also need to talk about our media, because media is one of the biggest tools used to divide Africans and black Americans. Hollywood for decades portrayed Africans as primitive, okay? It portrayed Africans as savage, as poor. So the image influenced how black Americans viewed Africa. And on the other hand, Western media showed black Americans as violent or criminals. And that image influenced how Africans viewed black Americans. So even before we met each other, we have been programmed with stereotypes. Before we meet each other, Africans land in America and are told that don't mix too much with African Americans, okay? They are dangerous. Black Americans here, Africans sold you. Africans are backwards. Africans don't like you. And this is why we see these online call-outs. And we need to remember one thing. It's not always coming from the place of hate. Sometimes it's coming from decades of programming that haven't learned yet. Okay? And this division is dangerous to us. If Africans and black Americans remain divided, who do you think wins this battle? White supremacy wins. The global system of exploitation wins. The corporations that steal Africans' resources wins. The politicians who suppress black voters or black votes in America wins. But if Africans and black Americans unite, there is a nightmare for the system. That is a nightmare, by the way. Okay? Imagine Africa, 1.4 billion people standing with 40 million black Americans. Imagine the political power and the economic strength, the culture dominance. Imagine if we speak with one voice as black people. Okay? And that's why the division is not just emotional, it is strategic. The system wants us divided because once we are united, are unstoppable. So we need to heal this rift between us. As black people, Africans and African Americans, we need to heal this rift because what we are doing, whether we are doing something to you black Americans, we need to stop as Africans. And whether black Americans are doing something to Africans, we need to stop so that we cannot let them win, okay? Now tell me what you think on the comment section about this video. Until next episode, peace out.